The weathered house on Willow Creek Lane had a way of breathing with the wind. To anyone passing by, it was just another charming old Victorian, with its pale blue siding and white trim, tucked safely behind a thicket of oaks. But to Claire Whitmore, it was a place where the past clung to the walls like ivy. "Mom, the clouds look like dragons today." 7-year-old Lily called out, her nose smushed against the living room window. Claire smiled from the kitchen, where the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. Her auburn hair was tied up in a loose bun, strands falling over a face that wore both intelligence and exhaustion, like twin badges of honor. "Maybe they're guarding treasure," she mused, pouring cereal into a bowl. Down the creaky stairs came Peter, her husband, crisp in his tailored blazer, coffee in hand. Always polished, always on, even for breakfast at home. "Big pitch today," he said, flashing Lily his $1,000,000 smile. "If it lands, we'll be celebrating in style." "Will you bring me back something sparkly?" Lily asked, eyes wide with glee. "The sparkliest," Peter promised, ruffling her hair. Claire watched the exchange with a strange tightness in her chest. She had noticed Peter growing increasingly secretive over the past few months, ever since her father had passed unexpectedly and left them the house, and a considerable inheritance. "How's the gallery project?" Peter asked, his voice casual but a little too interested. "Slow but steady," Claire replied, stacking dishes in the sink. "Restoring forgotten women artists isn't exactly a goldmine, but it's meaningful work." Peter chuckled, but there was a sharpness to it. "Meaningful doesn't pay the bills." Before Claire could respond, Peter's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then quickly silenced it. Claire caught the name, Marjorie, not a colleague she recognized. "Just work," Peter muttered, kissing Lily's forehead. "Gotta run." Claire lingered at the window as he pulled away, tires crunching over gravel. An uneasy feeling twined through her like smoke. After breakfast, Claire sorted through old boxes left in the attic, her father's books, letters, and trinkets. She came across a faded blueprint of the house. Oddly, it showed something she hadn't noticed before, a narrow staircase leading to a sealed-off cellar. "Mommy, look what I found!" Lily chirped, running into the room with a dusty photo in hand. Claire took it carefully. It was a snapshot of her father, younger and vibrant, standing in front of what looked like a hidden door. "Do you miss Grandpa?" Lily asked. Claire smiled sadly. "Every day. He talks to me sometimes," Lily said. "Matter of fact." Claire chuckled, chalking it up to a child's imagination. "I'm sure he watches over you, sweetheart." That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Claire sat at the kitchen table going over bills and paperwork. Her mind drifted back to the blueprint. Had her father known something? Why had he never mentioned the hidden stairwell? "Premita." The shrill ring of the house phone shattered the quiet. Claire picked up, bracing herself. "Claire, darling," came the clipped, composed voice of her mother-in-law, Evelyn. "I just wanted to let you know I'll be dropping by this weekend." Claire gripped the receiver tighter. Evelyn's visits were always an exercise in emotional tightrope walking. "Of course," she managed. "Peter mentioned you were struggling with the estate. I might be able to offer some guidance." "I appreciate the offer," Claire said, though every instinct screamed otherwise. As Claire hung up, a cold draft slithered through the kitchen. She shivered, staring out into the darkness beyond the window. Something unseen pressed against the edges of her world, just out of reach. In the dim light of the hallway, Lily stood, pale and silent. "What's wrong, baby?" Claire asked, rushing over. Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit to her chest. "There's a man outside. He's looking at the house." Claire's blood ran cold. She flicked off the lights and moved carefully to the window. Across the street, near the oaks, stood a figure. Too far to see clearly, but too still to be innocent. "Probably just a neighbor," Claire lied, heart pounding. She picked Lily up and carried her back to bed, double-checking every lock in the house along the way. Long after Lily's breathing slowed into sleep, Claire sat awake, the blueprint spread before her, her father's warning whispers seeming to rise from the creaking walls themselves. Somewhere deep in the house, a door groaned on its hinges. Claire froze. The house had many secrets. And tonight, it seemed, they had decided to wake up. Morning light barely pierced the heavy curtains, leaving the kitchen soaked in a tired gray glow. Claire rubbed her eyes, feeling the sharpness of another sleepless night. As she made Lily's breakfast, her mind raced through the previous evening's events, the blueprint, the man outside, the mysterious groan. She decided it was time to investigate. While Lily played with her crayons at the kitchen table, Claire retrieved the old blueprint and traced the faint lines with her finger. There it was, a narrow stairway branching off the main cellar. Quietly, Claire grabbed a flashlight from the junk drawer. "Be right back, sweetheart," she said, kissing Lily's head. "Stay right here." The entrance to the basement was behind a heavy oak door near the pantry. Claire hadn't ventured down there much. It was dark, unfinished, and smelled of damp earth. She twisted the handle, heart hammering. The basement stairs groaned under her weight. Dust particles danced in the flashlight beam. Claire swept the light around, finding nothing unusual. Crates, old furniture draped in sheets, the familiar detritus of forgotten years. Then she spotted it. A wall that didn't match the others. Newer wood, hastily painted. Her breath caught. Claire dropped to her knees and tapped along the baseboards. Hollow. At the corner, half buried under a pile of cracked mason jars, she found a small iron ring embedded in the floor. She hesitated, then pulled. With a reluctant screech, a hidden panel lifted, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Her stomach twisted. Logic told her to close it and walk away, but her gut said otherwise. Claire pulled her phone from her pocket, opened the flashlight app, and carefully stepped down. The air grew colder as she descended, the smell of earth and mildew thickening. The stairway ended in a tiny, low-ceilinged chamber. Stone walls, dirt floor, and bizarrely, an ancient writing desk against the far wall. On the desk sat a single item, a battered leather journal. Claire's fingers trembled as she opened it. The first page was inscribed in her father's hand. "For Claire, when the time comes, trust your instincts, protect Lily." Tears sprang to her eyes. She flipped further, finding page after page of notes, suspicious transactions, names she didn't recognize, and references to Peter's debts and Evelyn's interference. Her father had known something, and he had tried to shield her from it. Nameshe. A thump from upstairs broke her trance. Elemshi, Claire's heart, leapt into her throat. She extinguished her flashlight and pressed against the wall, straining to hear. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Someone was in the house. Claire stood frozen in the underground chamber, the battered journal pressed to her chest. Every instinct screamed at her to stay hidden, but Lily was upstairs, alone. Slowly, quietly, Claire climbed the narrow steps back to the main basement. She pressed her ear against the door. The footsteps had moved into the kitchen. Creeping up to a crack between the door and its frame, she peered through. Absent. It wasn't Peter. It wasn't Evelyn. A man in dark clothes, wearing a baseball cap pulled low, was rifling through the kitchen drawers with gloved hands. He moved with practiced efficiency, as if he knew exactly what he was looking for. Claire's breath caught. She needed to get to Lily. Now. She slipped back down the stairs, quickly shut the hidden panel, and tiptoed to the base of the regular basement stairs. Every step she took upward felt like an explosion in the silence. At the top, she peered around the corner. The stranger was in the living room now, inspecting framed photographs. Claire darted toward the hallway, heart pounding, and made it to Lily's room. "Mommy?" Lily whispered, sitting up in bed. "Shh, baby," Claire said, scooping her into her arms. "We have to play a special game, okay? The very quiet game." Lily nodded solemnly. Claire padded back to the hallway. She had to get to the back door. But as she crept toward it, she saw the figure turn, almost as if sensing her movement. No time. Claire ran, clutching Lily to her chest. She threw the deadbolt, yanked the door open, and plunged into the chilly morning air. "Hey!" the man roared behind them. Claire didn't look back. She sprinted barefoot across the dewy lawn, her mind racing. Where to go? Where to hide? "The woods!" Claire gasped. "Hold tight, Lily!" The trees loomed ahead, dark and dense. Claire stumbled through the underbrush, twigs scraping her legs, until they were swallowed by the forest. She pressed against the trunk of a massive oak, trying to still her ragged breathing. From the edge of the yard, the man scanned the woods, cursing under his breath. But after a tense minute, he gave up and retreated back toward the house. Claire held Lily tighter, her body trembling from fear and adrenaline. "Mommy, who was that man?" Lily whispered. "I don't know, baby, but we're gonna be okay." Claire had to think. They couldn't go back to the house. Not now. They needed help. Someone she could trust. Barbara, her childhood friend, lived only a few streets over. If they could make it to Barbara's house, they could call the police. But getting there meant crossing open streets, no cover, and no idea if the stranger had reinforcements. Claire crouched to Lily's eye level. "We have to be brave, okay? We'll go very fast, very quiet." Lily nodded, clutching her stuffed rabbit tightly. With a deep breath, Claire led them through the woods, weaving between trees, taking the long way around to avoid the road. Her bare feet throbbed with every step, but she pushed on. Finally, Barbara's house came into view, a cozy brick cottage with warm lights glowing inside. Claire knocked frantically. The door swung open and Barbara's face appeared, shocked, then alarmed. "Claire? What?" "Please," Claire gasped. "Let us in." Barbara ushered them inside and locked the door behind them. "Tell me everything," she said, guiding them to the couch. Claire spilled the story between gasps and shivers. The blueprint, the hidden stairwell, the stranger in her house. Barbara listened, eyes wide. "Claire," she said carefully, I think you need to hear this. Last week, I saw Peter at the diner, with another woman. They looked close, intimate." Claire felt the bottom fall out of her stomach. "And that's not all," Barbara continued. "I overheard him say something about getting the house soon. He looked excited." Claire closed her eyes, bile rising in her throat. The man tonight hadn't been random. Nenny CA. This was a plan. A trap. And Peter, the man she had trusted with her life, was behind it. Claire clutched the warm mug of tea Barbara handed her, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her. She couldn't stop glancing toward the window, half expecting to see the man in the baseball cap lurking in the shadows. "You need to call the police," Barbara urged. "Tell them everything." Claire shook her head. "Without proof, it'll just sound crazy, like some paranoid nightmare. And if Peter's involved..." She didn't finish the thought. She didn't have to. If Peter was orchestrating this, he would know how to spin it. How to paint her as unstable, emotional, still grieving her father's death. "But the journal," Barbara insisted. "Your father's notes, they might be enough." Claire nodded slowly. "We need to go back." Barbara's eyes widened. "Are you insane?" "I left the journal in the hidden room. If they find it, if Peter gets it, they could erase everything." Barbara hesitated, then squared her shoulders. "Then we go together." Claire squeezed her friend's hand, gratitude flooding through her. "We go after dark." The hours crawled by as they waited for nightfall. Claire sat with Lily curled against her side, pretending everything was fine. But her mind churned. Had Peter always been capable of this? Had she simply been too blind to see? Finally, as the neighborhood lights dimmed and the streets emptied, Barbara pulled her battered old SUV around. "You sure about this?" she asked. "I have to be," Claire said, tucking Lily into the back seat under a blanket. "Stay hidden, sweetheart, no matter what." The drive back to Willow Creek Lane felt longer than ever. Claire's stomach twisted into tighter knots with every block they passed. As they approached the house, Claire's heart sank. A black SUV, different from Barbara's, was parked just down the street. And the house itself was dark, except for a faint, pulsing glow from the basement window. "Someone's there," Barbara whispered. Claire bit her lip, thinking fast. Maybe they're still looking. Maybe they haven't found it yet. Barbara cut the engine. "What's the plan?" "I go in," Claire said, her voice stronger than she felt. "You stay here with Lily. If I'm not back in 15 minutes, drive to the sheriff's office." "Claire, please." Barbara pressed her lips together but nodded. Claire slipped from the car and crept through the side yard, staying low in the shadows. Every sound, the chirp of crickets, the crunch of gravel underfoot, seemed unnaturally loud. At the back of the house, the pantry window was slightly ajar. Claire slid it open the rest of the way and slipped inside. The kitchen was a mess. Drawers emptied, cabinets flung open. Whoever had searched the place hadn't been gentle. She tiptoed across the room, heart hammering against her ribs, and pulled open the basement door. The creaking stair under her foot felt deafening. Down in the basement, the strange glow grew brighter. Claire pressed herself against the wall and edged forward. At the far end of the room, near the hidden panel, stood a figure. Peter. He was kneeling by the secret hatch, crowbar in hand, sweat gleaming on his forehead. Claire barely dared to breathe. Peter muttered under his breath, struggling to pry open the hidden stairwell. Claire knew she had seconds. She snatched a heavy wrench from the workbench and gripped it tightly. "Looking for something?" she said, her voice low and cold. Peter whirled, shock flickering across his face. "Claire, what the hell are you doing here?" "Funny. I was about to ask you the same thing," she said, stepping closer. Peter's face twisted into something ugly. "This is my house too, remember?" Claire tightened her grip on the wrench. Not for long. Behind Peter, the hidden stair creaked open. By itself. Both of them froze. From the darkness below, a gust of cold air spilled out. And with it, a low, whispering voice. Claire's blood turned to ice. Peter backed away, his bravado crumbling. What is that?" Claire seized the moment. She lunged forward, swung the wrench and struck his hand. Peter howled and dropped the crowbar. "Stay away from my daughter," Claire hissed. Peter clutched his wrist, glaring at her with pure hatred. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," he spat. "Oh, I think I do," Claire said, backing toward the stairs. From the hidden passage, the whispering grew louder. Claire didn't wait to find out more. She bolted upstairs, slamming the basement door behind her, and ran straight for the front door where Barbara was waiting, car idling. "Go!" Claire shouted, leaping into the car. Barbara peeled out of the driveway, tires screeching. As they sped away, Claire clutched Lily close and looked back. Peter stood silhouetted in the doorway, watching them go, and behind him, from the darkness of the house, came a shadowy figure that didn't seem entirely human. Claire shivered. Some secrets weren't just dangerous, some secrets were alive. Barbara's SUV raced through the sleepy streets, headlights cutting through the misty night. Claire sat in the back seat, clutching Lily to her chest, heart still pounding from the escape. Beside her, Barbara gripped the steering wheel so tightly, her knuckles were white. "Where are we going?" Claire asked, voice trembling. "Somewhere safe," Barbara said. "I know a place. My cousin's old cabin near the lake. No one knows about it." Claire nodded, grateful. For now, distance was their best protection. Lily stirred in Claire's arms. "Mommy." The shadow man. He was watching. Claire kissed the top of her daughter's head. "I know, sweetheart. But he can't find us now, I promise." They reached the cabin, just as dawn began to bleed into the sky, painting it with hues of bruised purple and orange. It was a simple wooden structure, half swallowed by trees, but to Claire, it looked like a fortress. Inside, Claire set Lily on the worn couch, while Barbara checked the doors and windows, locking and bolting everything. "It's not much," Barbara said, "but it'll keep us hidden for a little while." Claire finally allowed herself to breathe. She sat beside Lily and pulled the old journal from her jacket, the one she'd grabbed in her flight from the house. By the dim light of the morning, she flipped through the pages again. There were detailed notes about financial discrepancies, mentions of Peter's gambling debts, and disturbing hints that Evelyn had been manipulating things for years, even influencing Claire's father during his final days. One passage stopped Claire cold. "If something happens to me, it won't be an accident. Evelyn knows the house is secret. Peter is desperate. Protect Lily at all costs." Tears blurred Claire's vision. Her father had known. He had tried to warn her, tried to shield them both. Barbara leaned over her shoulder. "Claire, this is huge. This proves they were plotting." Claire nodded. "But we need more. Real evidence to bring to the authorities." Lily tugged at Claire's sleeve. "Mommy, Grandpa says there's something under the house." Claire blinked. "What do you mean, honey?" "In my dream," Lily said solemnly. "Grandpa showed me a big key and a door under the floor." Claire and Barbara exchanged a glance. "The journal mentioned a safe," Claire said slowly. "Maybe there's something hidden deeper than the passage we found." Barbara frowned. "You want to go back there? Again?" Claire hesitated. Every instinct screamed against it. But she knew. They couldn't live like fugitives forever. They needed the final piece of the puzzle. "We have to," Claire said. "Whatever's hidden there. It's the only way to end this." Barbara sighed, rubbing her temples. "Then we need a plan. And backup." Claire thought hard. "There's someone. Detective Harris. My dad trusted him. If anyone will believe me, it's him." Barbara nodded. "Good. We get him on our side." They spent the rest of the morning crafting a plan. Barbara would stay at the cabin with Lily, while Claire went to town to find Harris. If she couldn't convince him, she'd retrieve the hidden evidence herself. Before she left, Claire knelt by Lily. "Stay with Barbara. Be brave." Lily hugged her tightly. "Come back soon, Mommy. Grandpa says to trust the light." Claire kissed her daughter's forehead, heart aching. Outside, the world felt raw and uncertain. As Claire pulled onto the main road, she caught sight of a dark SUV parked 2 streets over. Watching, her stomach flipped. Peter wasn't done yet. Accelerating, Claire sped toward the town, toward hope, or maybe toward the final confrontation she couldn't avoid. Either way, she would fight. For her daughter, for her father, for herself. And this time, she wouldn't run. Claire didn't dare slow down until she reached the edge of town, where the coffee shop sat like a sleepy outpost. She parked behind the building and entered through the back, her nerves buzzing like static. Detective Harris wasn't hard to spot. Broad-shouldered in a worn leather jacket, with a face that had seen too many late nights and bad coffee, he looked up from his newspaper and met her eyes with a frown. "Claire Whitmore," he said, folding the paper. "Didn't expect to see you here." Claire slid into the booth across from him. "I need your help." He leaned in, his expression sharpening. "Start from the beginning." Claire did. Everything. The hidden passage, the journal, Peter's behavior, the intruder, even the eerie shadow that seemed to haunt the house. Harris listened without interrupting, his hands steepled under his chin. When she finished, he exhaled slowly. "You understand how this sounds?" "I know," Claire said fiercely. "But I have proof. My father's journal, financial records, and," she hesitated, "and something more. Something Lily saw." "The kid," Harris said thoughtfully. "Sometimes children see things clearer than adults." Claire nodded, grateful. "Where are you staying?" "A cabin, near the lake. My friend Barbara is with Lily." Harris tapped his fingers against the table. "You trust this friend?" "With my life." "Good. You'll need someone you can rely on." Claire clutched her cup. "Will you help me?" Harris looked at her a long moment. Then he nodded. "Yeah. But we do this smart." They agreed on a plan. Harris would accompany Claire back to the house during daylight, under the guise of a routine welfare check. If they found the safe, they'd secure the evidence properly. Neck-a-bass. As they finalized details, Harris's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. "What's wrong?" Claire asked. "Peter just reported you missing. Claims you're unstable, possibly dangerous." Claire's mouth fell open. "He's trying to flip it." "Which means he's getting desperate," Harris said grimly. "And desperate men are dangerous." They moved fast. Claire rode with Harris in his unmarked car back to Willow Creek Lane, heart pounding with every mile. When they pulled up to the house, everything looked normal. Too normal. No black SUV, no obvious signs of tampering. But Claire knew better. "Stay behind me," Harris instructed, leading her up the porch steps. He knocked. No answer. "Police," Harris called out, flashing his badge at the peephole. "Routine check." After a moment, the door creaked open. Just an inch. Evelyn's sharp features appeared in the gap, her expression cold. "Detective Harris," she said with forced sweetness. "What brings you here?" "Concerned citizen reported some strange activity," Harris said smoothly. "Mind if we take a look around?" Evelyn's mouth tightened. "We have nothing to hide." She swung the door open fully. Inside, Claire's skin crawled. The house looked cleaner than before, almost staged, like someone had scrubbed it of secrets. "Basement first," Harris said. Evelyn's mask cracked, a flicker of panic in her eyes, but she nodded. Claire led Harris to the pantry, where the hidden panel should be. Her heart sank. The floor had been torn up. The panel, the stairwell, was gone. Just a smooth stretch of new hardwood, gleaming under the lights. "They covered it," Claire whispered, horrified. Harris crouched, inspecting the area. "Recently done. Fresh varnish." "They knew," Claire said, voice shaking. "They knew we'd come back." Footsteps creaked behind them. "Peter." He stood at the base of the stairs, smiling thinly. "Detective," Peter said. "You'll see my wife has been under tremendous strain. Her father's death. The move. It's been hard on her." Claire wanted to scream. Instead, she locked eyes with Harris. "Check the basement walls," she said. The journal mentioned a second access point. Peter's smile faltered. Harris motioned Claire to stay put and began tapping along the basement walls. Claire squared her shoulders. She would not back down. Not now. Paul Tarmus. This was her house. This was her fight. And she was finally ready to finish it. Harris moved methodically along the basement walls, tapping and listening. Claire stood rigid, feeling Peter's gaze boring into her back. Tap, 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 hollow. Harris exchanged a sharp glance with Claire. He pulled a utility knife from his belt and scored along the base of the wall, prying back a thin panel of drywall. Behind it, tucked into the studs, was a small iron safe. Peter took a step forward. "This is absurd. You need a warrant." Harris didn't blink. "You invited me in. Consent stands." Peter's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Harris pulled out a lockpick kit, standard issue for investigations, and began working. Claire watched, her heart hammering against her ribs like a frantic bird. Click. The safe door swung open with a groan. Inside were neatly stacked documents, a flash drive, and, chillingly, a black notebook marked with her father's initials. Claire reached for it with trembling fingers. "Don't," Peter snapped, lunging forward. Harris stepped between them, pushing Peter back. "Step away," Harris ordered. Peter hesitated, eyes darting between Harris and Claire. Then, with a snarl, he bolted up the stairs. "He's running!" Claire shouted. Harris didn't hesitate. "Stay here!" He tore after Peter, gun drawn but low. Claire clutched the notebook, feeling its weight like a heartbeat in her hand. The flash drive, too. She pocketed it quickly. This was it. The real evidence. Above her, the sounds of a scuffle echoed down, thudding feet, a crash, then a sharp grunt. Moments later, Harris reappeared, dragging Peter down the stairs in cuffs. "Resisting an officer," Harris said grimly, "on top of everything else." Peter thrashed once, then slumped in defeat. "Evelyn?" Claire asked, dread filling her. Harris nodded toward the door. "Already called for backup, she won't get far." Claire exhaled shakily. It wasn't over yet, but it was close. Weeks later, the courtroom was packed. Reporters murmured in the back rows, hens scratching across notepads. Claire sat with Lily and Barbara beside her, heart hammering as Peter was led in, wrists shackled. Evelyn, pale and drawn, followed behind, her usual steely composure shattered. The trial had been swift. The mountain of evidence, the documents, the flash drive, the notebook, was undeniable. Peter's debts were laid bare, his affair exposed, his motive crystal clear. Claire squeezed Lily's hand as the judge read the verdict. "Peter Whitmore and Evelyn Whitmore, you are hereby found guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice." The gavel struck. Final. Peter barely looked at Claire as he was led away, his expression twisted in bitterness and regret. Claire breathed out slowly, a weight lifting from her chest. It was truly over. Blank, blank, the following months passed in a flurry of healing and rebuilding. With the help of Harris and a dedicated legal team, Claire reclaimed her father's house. The hidden stairwell was restored, the walls repainted, the darkness banished by new life and light. Barbara helped oversee repairs, her laughter often echoing through the halls alongside Lily's. One spring afternoon, Claire stood in the backyard, watching Lily chase butterflies through the garden. The house behind them, once a place of secrets and shadows, now stood proudly, a home reborn. Harris dropped by, a box tucked under one arm. "What's this?" Claire asked, smiling. He grinned. "A little something we found while clearing evidence, your father's final gift." Inside the box was a locket, old but lovingly polished, and a handwritten note. "Claire, never doubt your strength. Trust the light, even in the darkest rooms. Love always, Dad." Tears blurred Claire's vision. She pressed the locket to her heart. "Thank you," she whispered. Harris lingered for a moment longer. "You built a life from the ashes, Claire. You should be proud." Claire looked at Lily, who waved happily from the garden. "I am," she said. "More than I ever thought possible." As the sun dipped lower, painting the world in gold, Claire realized that the past's grip had finally loosened. The future was theirs to claim, a future built not on fear or betrayal, but on hope, love, and unshakable courage. And in that quiet moment, as laughter and sunlight filled the air, Claire Whitmore stepped fully into her new beginning, a survivor, a mother, a light in the dark,